Hey guys, Metal Jesus here. Now, every once in a while, companies will send me portable devices for review. Whether it's a mini PC like those, or maybe it's a Windows-based handheld right here, there's always compromises, right? Well, recently I was sent something that's pretty interesting. It doesn't want to have any compromises whatsoever when it comes to performance, as well as the quality of it. And it is called the OneXPlayer Super X. This is a really high-end tablet that wants to be everything for all users. And for the most part, it seems to do a really good job. But as you can imagine, it does come with a price. So let's get into it. All right, we're going to jump into the specs of this thing, and then after that, I'm going to show you a bunch of video games running on this thing. Now, the highlight here is this brand new AMD Ryzen AI Max 395. Say that 5 times fast, right? This is a beast of a processor. It has 16 Zen 5 cores and 32 threads. And they pair that with the onboard graphics, so it is an AMD Radeon 8060, which they are saying is comparable to the RTX 4060, which of course is a video card that came out a couple years ago. So they're saying that this portable device is equal to something that came out a couple years ago that you would put in an actual desktop computer. The other star of the show here is the display. This is a gorgeous 14-inch AMOLED display that's running at a resolution of 2880 by 1800, which is a little bit unusual, but that makes it 16 by 10 is the aspect ratio. That's not a big deal, but just be aware that the display resolution is a little bit different than your typical 16 by 9. And so when you go in and configure games, you have to take that in consideration, right? And then the refresh rates supported are 60 Hz to 120 Hz, and it supports VRR, or variable refresh rates. And the brightness is 500 nits, which doesn't sound like a lot, but in person, actually, it's fine. It also supports HDR. The power usage of this is pretty interesting. So they sell 2 versions of this. I have the base one right here, which supports up to 75 watts. However, they make a version of this that will go to 120 watts when plugged in and supports liquid cooling with their Frost Bay accessory that they sell. So you can have liquid cooling on that one. It actually has a little port on the back, which this one doesn't have. But yeah, they have a version of this that will go up to 120 watts if you need that. So just important to know that they do have 2 different versions of this. And inside of here is an 85 watt battery. Now it gets its power from a power brick that's included in the box here. And you'll notice actually it has this round plug, almost kind of like an old school laptop. And I just want to mention it because you would probably assume, like I did, that you would just charge this via the USB, you know, like USB-C, like so many other devices that are out there. But no, this one has its own dedicated power brick, and it's also got that old school round plug. And to keep this thing cool, it's got a dual fan system that pulls air in and then circulates through the device. And you can kind of see it here as I move the camera around here. So it has vents in the back as well as on top. Now with a device this powerful, you're probably wondering just how loud those fans are. And well, you know, it's going to obviously depend on the game and also the wattage that you are using. And so I found it to be similar to probably other gaming laptops, you know. You can take a listen right here. They're using Harman Kardon speakers in here, so that entire audio system is Harman Kardon, and it sounds fantastic. As a matter of fact, in person, the audio almost sounds 3D. It's really wild. The next day we wanted to take a guided tour, and in Honolulu they have these Waikiki trolleys that basically you buy a day pass, and then you can hop on the different lines. You see here, there's this like razor thin stepless hinge in the back, and that basically lets you choose whatever angle that you want to have this at. They also sell an optional RGB keyboard that I have here, and it basically just uses magnets to attach to the bottom. You don't have to use it, but if you want kind of more of a laptop experience, you're probably going to want it. There are 2 USB-C 4.0 ports, as well as a USB-A 3.2 port. On the other side, you have the power connector, which I already showed you, as well as the headphone jack. Then there is a micro SD slot. And then they also have a mini SSD slot right there, which I don't have any of those drives, but I thought that's pretty cool. Very handy. On the top, you have the power button, as well as 2 of those air vents. And then rounding out some of the features here, it supports Wi-Fi 7, Bluetooth 5.2, and it comes with a copy of Windows 11 Home. And then without the keyboard attached, just by itself, it weighs 1.3 kilograms or a little over 2.8 pounds, which probably doesn't sound like a lot, but I will tell you that if you're used to other tablets, like say an iPad, this is way heavier, probably to be expected, of course, because it's doing, a lot of gaming here and has a lot of stuff on the inside, but just be aware, it's heavier than you probably think. And like I said in the beginning of this video, this thing is really designed to not have a lot of compromises, yet still be portable. It's trying to be pro level, like as a laptop, as a tablet, as your entertainment device, and also, maybe you would create things, and also do high performance gaming all in one device, in one machine. It's a lot, and I would say for the most part, they're nailing it here. I guess I should probably say the price, right? Because that's what everyone's wondering. Well, this is not cheap. You were right to suspect that it would not be cheap. It starts at $2,000. And so that's a lot of money, right? Because you got to be thinking, okay, well, I could get a gaming laptop for about that. Or if you just want the tablet functionality, then maybe you would just go get an iPad Pro or something, right? But let's go ahead and run some tests on it. I'm going to run 2 specific 3D Mark tests on it. And the first one being the Speedway test, which is typically used to test high-end PCs. And for this one, I have it set to 45 watts of power. And as you see here, we're averaging about 15 frames a second. So nothing truly amazing here, but I wanted to show what it'd be like if you were running it, say, on battery power and pushing it a little bit, right? If I plug it in and bump the power usage up to 75 watts, well, I get about 5 more frames a second of video performance there. So nothing completely amazing, but again, this is running the really high-end gaming PC test on it. So let's switch over to Steel Nomad, which is also another test that's used to run on gaming PCs. And we're getting about 16 to 18 frames a second here at 45 watts. Now, if I, again, bump that up to 75 watts, you can expect another, say, 5 frames per second in performance. However, this is a testing device, right? So what we really care about is video games. So let's go ahead and jump into Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk has a great benchmarking tool built into it, and I have the high settings here, and we are drawing 75 watts of power because I assume that most people who buy this are probably going to want a gaming PC, and they're probably going to want it plugged in most of the time. So that's kind of what I'm testing most of this with. And as you see here, we are getting a decent 60 frames a second, sometimes even more than that. So I would consider this pretty solid performance. Jumping into Need for Speed Heat, one of my favorite Need for Speed games. Anytime I get a chance to play this game, I will jump at it. Now, for this one, again, I want to remind you that I turned off HDR in the game and in Windows, and that's simply because of my capture card. So just be aware, when you own this thing or you plug it into your television, you don't have to do that, but my capture card, otherwise it looks really weird and saturated. But this looks and runs great. So we're using the auto settings here and the high resolution, and we're running it at 45 watts here, and I would say the game looks and plays pretty well. I mean, you could totally use this, right? However, I bumped the power up to 75 watts and turn on VSync for just a little bit better performance. And yeah, I think this looks fantastic. Red Dead Redemption 2 also has a benchmarking tool. And for this, I set the resolution to 1920 by 1080 resolution because I want to try to get as good a performance as possible. Now, this is a mix of medium and high settings, and I am using the full 75 watts of power. And this was pretty interesting. So depending on the complexity of the scene, you can get a little over 60 frames per second, like you see here in town, which I think looks great, right? However, also in this benchmarking tool, they show a lot of snowstorm particle effects. And for that, it was getting down into the 30 frames a second. So again, depending on the complexity and stuff like that, you can probably expect anywhere from 30 to 60 frames. And again, you can mess with the detail settings, you know, whether you want medium or high. But just playing the game, kind of cruising around, I think it looks fantastic. Now we're going to jump into Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart. And I started with the native resolution here of 2880 by 1800. And then I have AMD's FSR 3 turned on. And it was not getting, you know, great frame rates. This is pushing this piece of hardware, right? However, if I bumped it down in resolution and I had the high settings turned on, as you see here, the game looks and runs great. So, and also too, if you think about it, this 14-inch display probably doesn't really need super high resolutions anyways, right? Because it's only a 14-inch display, depending on how far you are from it. It doesn't really matter. So you can get the performance if you are willing to put the resolution down a bit. Another game I was really curious to throw at this was Tainted Grail. So this is an open world Skyrim-like RPG. However, the last part of this game, the last level, is in winter with snow, and that area is notoriously tough on computer performance. But I started playing this with its really high settings and high resolution, and it runs great on this machine. I was really surprised to see that because I've been playing this on an older PC and it was not doing well on here. And even on the Steam Deck, it's pretty rough, especially when you get to a higher resolution. So this is cool to see. And then I've just been playing a bunch of games in this over the last couple of weeks. New games, old games, simple games, complex games, kind of just throwing everything at it. And it's kind of wild because it is probably my most powerful Windows gaming PC right now, which is wild when you think of this form factor, right? Although I'm not entirely sure who this is for, right? Because, you know, if you're a gamer and you want that portability, you would probably just buy a gaming laptop. But this is also a tablet, right? And so maybe you do, you know, art on it, I guess. Or you need to have 4K videos all the time, or maybe you're doing presentations on the road or something like that, and you also want to play games, or maybe you're a developer or something like that, or you want to use the AI stuff that's built into this. Again, it does a lot, and so I'm not entirely sure who needs all that. Like I said, if you're a gamer, well, why would you just not get a dedicated gaming desktop or a gaming laptop? Or if you are an artist and you want a tablet, most people seem to just use iPads or iPad Pros, right? So I'm not entirely sure who I would recommend this to, right? If someone came to me, I'd be like, well, do you need all of this stuff? If you do, you know, like I said, maybe you're a game developer and so you need a really powerful machine and you're on the road, maybe you're going to GDC or some expos and showing your game off, then maybe you would need this. But I don't know. You tell me down in the comments if this is something interesting for you. I mean, again, I do really like the fact it's pretty powerful and it's portable. It's completely portable. So it's something that I would continue to use quite a bit in my game room. But I don't know, man. I'd love to know what you think down in the comments below. I'll put a link to their site so you can get more information about it as well. That'll be down in the video description. And as always, guys, I want to thank you for watching my channel. Thank you for subscribing and take care.